B captured. You have zone advantage. I've seen enough. I'm calling this one.
Daniel, are you playing a warlock? I'm so disappointed.
That's awesome. Clunky friends, and welcome to Fireteam Chat. I'm your host, Ty Guy Travis. Joining me today, we've got a great panel. We've got...
Hold up a second. You didn't do it. Welcome to Fireteam Chat, IGN's Destiny show. I'm your host, Destin Legary. Thank you so much for joining me. Joining me today is Travis, who I guess can co-host. And Paul Tassi.
C-Team?
Brian is out doing Warlock stuff. Who knows? No, he's doing behind-the-scenes IGN stuff. At the top of the show, I do want to say a big heartfelt thank you to both Travis and Paul for doing the show when I was out, and Brian, who's not here today. But Travis, behind the scenes, you've been doing a lot of work with the run of shows and just making sure all the stuff was done, and getting my little joke videos that I would send you that I would record with the baby off. I was able
part of the show.
Yeah, I was able to spend a little bit more time on the one we saw at the top. But yeah, seriously, thank you both so much for keeping the show going while I was gone.
It's a pleasure.
There was a lot to talk about. You missed quite a bit.
What's been going on, Travis? I haven't been playing. I'm not rank 132 in the season pass already, for sure.
Yeah, well, me neither, because I mostly just do Crucible. But yeah, you missed a lot. There's Bungie Studios said they're doubling in size. Apparently, we're going to get Destiny movies and maybe TV shows or anime. Who knows? Yeah, it was a pretty wild. Oh yeah, and they announced the end of the Darkness and Light saga for 2024, I think it is. So yeah, lots of stuff in your wake, but we covered it all. And this week it's been a lighter past couple of weeks, but we do have a ton of story stuff to talk about, which I think is probably a good place to start.
Story stuff. What about the PvE separation? Are we going to get to that later?
Yeah, of course.
All right.
Of course.
Let's start with the story stuff then. So, okay. Spoiler warning, when you have a new baby, you don't really sleep. So I'm up all night just playing Destiny, waiting for the baby to wake up like the next few hours. I really, really love the story stuff that they've been doing. What is your question specifically about the story stuff, though, Travis?
Yeah, so last week there was a cutscene where Zavala, there was an attempt on Zavala's life, and this week it sort of played out, and it seems like it's going to reach its conclusion in the strike that we're getting next week, which we can talk a little bit about later. But yeah, the question is, what do you think's going on with Zavala's assassination? I mean, it was a scion. Obviously, I think probably most people think that it's Keidel's doing, but there was some interesting lore. I don't know if it's really lore. In their Twitter, it seemed like Keidel was saying that she wouldn't kill Zavala in such an underhanded way, which does sound like something Keidel would say. And so the question is, maybe it's Amtech. If you guys remember her from Season of the Dawn, it could be Savathun. That's always
who's that first person?
Amtech.
Okay, Amtech. So you guys remember those 3 scions that we killed in Season of the Dawn, and there were 3 different scions, and then you had to fight them all at once at the end.
People.
Yeah, so Amtech is the 4th scion sister, who is the one that caused the you know what? You can laugh at me all I want. I read the lore, okay?
I'm gonna go on a limb and say it's not Amtrak. So
Amtrak.
Yeah. I think there's two main scion suspects. I didn't watch the bite video, I probably should, but there's Adzat, who's like they're from the one strike, and then there's whoever Ixil the Far Reaching is like kind of one of the members of Keidel's Battlegrounds team, and it's possible that they're kind of doing their own thing, and either in an effort to kind of appease Keidel, they tried to take out Zavala, or in an effort to undermine her because they don't think she's being strong enough that they tried to do that. But I 100% believe Kaido that she had nothing to do with it. So got to take the Cabal Space Empress at her word, obviously. So.
Yeah, well, you seem to be doing that since you're her lapdog now. But yeah,
Wait. Can I say what I think's going on?
Yeah, go ahead.
So, Kaido took over Twitter and did the thing. Paul, you and Kaido were like BFFs there for a while on Twitter, right?
Yeah.
So he loves it. So I don't think it's Kaido at all. I think something is going on within the Vanguard themselves, because Lord Saladin and Zavala are quite contentious in that last story cutscene, and I don't know what is going on there, but they're planting the seed for something to play out later on, right? Like either a big confrontation between the two when the true villain is revealed, or maybe there is something going on with Saladin that we're not aware of.
Are you saying Saladin sent a Scion assassin to try and kill Zavala?
Something about how Zavala, Osiris, and Saladin, something about how they've been interacting just doesn't sit right with me. It seems like each character has something going on. Like Osiris's interaction with Keitel is much different than the interaction Zavala seems to be having with Keitel. Like, yeah, I don't know. It seems weird because she's calling up Zavala on the phone and she's like, hey, I talked to Osiris. That dude sucks. Why don't we like work something out? We're going to lose to the real foe who's coming, and she seems like she's game. I don't think Zavala should bow to her, but I do feel like that there is an understanding, and they seem to be working towards, yeah, let's challenge each other in combat, and then that's going to be the resolution of that fight. But something is fishy to me about the whole story that has been revealed thus far. You guys don't think that?
Interesting.
I don't think it's like some grand inter-Vanguard conspiracy where somebody's a spy. Like, I think Saladin's just like a hardliner where like he doesn't want to ally with this, race of enemies that have killed bazillions of Guardians over the years. Like he's not in favor of that at all. Whereas I think Osiris is like interested to some degree in working with Keitel, and that's why they have their little like Glycon conversations. Whereas Zavala is more thinking about this tactically. And he's like, okay, well, how can we save lives? Like, we'll challenge her to ritual combat, and then it's just a fire team of Guardians versus Ichabod, the whatever. Whoever we're fighting in the strike. But I don't know all the Cabal names. But I thought originally it was maybe going to be like Zavala versus Keitel, and then one of them would have to die, and that would be. But very quickly they were like, it's leading up to the strike, and obviously that's not the plot of the strike. It's a fire team going against her champion, which is some random person we've never heard of. So
Paul, let me ask you this, because what I'm alluding to is I think there's another party that is messing with everybody involved in the equation. Keitel, Osiris, Saladin, and Zavala's like, something's not right. I'm not going to do anything until I know what's going on. Now, I know we're sort of alluding to the fact that maybe it's Atrax or whoever Travis said.
Yeah. Amtrak. It's Amtrak.
Yeah, Amtrak or whatever. But I mean, that's sort of my take. And I think that's causing friction within the Vanguard at the very least, if not something more sinister going on.
Well, there's the old arrivals theory about Savathun infecting Zavala from the skull artifact, which I could still believe is possible. I don't know if his current actions really suggest to me some sort of like move meant to cripple us. Like that doesn't really seem like what he's doing. So I would be surprised if that was like a result of that potentially. Like I'm not going to say like no one has been infected by Savathun and someone won't be a traitor, but I don't know if between the three of them in the conflict that's going on right now, if that's why. I mean, I could be wrong, but that's not really what I'm taking away from it.
I got a wild one for you. What's this whole Siva Plague Gang thing? People want that to come back, right?
The left turn.
It's pretty unrelated, yeah.
Non-canon story here.
So Saladin, he's the one that's the most angry. He was in a room filled with Siva trying to kill it before, I think, who was it? She blew herself up at the end. It wasn't Ephrodite. It was
one of the,
it was one of the Iron Lords, right? So he's in there. You're telling me that you can transmit diseases through a sneeze, but he can be in a room full of Siva and nothing fishy's going on there. And then there's
not like literally a disease. Okay. I don't think Saladin is walking around being corrupted by Siva.
No, it's we'll see.
But I don't know. We'll see what the Plague Gang thing is. The fans are trying to write a Siva based season, and Saladin would probably be involved in that. I don't I think Moira from the Destiny the meme account is like the narrative person who's working on that. So we'll see what she comes up with. But I don't see Siva coming back in this current storyline trajectory. I'm not going to rule out the next few years, but on the way to Savathun, that would be kind of a hard left turn to go into that territory.
Right, well, check out my fan fiction. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, that's basically what the Plaguelands thing is it's just fan fiction. They're kind of hoping.
Don't hate on fan fiction. I wrote a whole fan fiction scene about Trials being canceled like last weekend.
You did? I actually read that. That was really funny. So back to kind of who's behind the assassination. I still think Paul, I didn't watch the Bive video either, but I think I read that he thinks that Amtech might have something to do with it. So I wouldn't discount that theory, but I'm kind of with you guys in that it seems like it's a little too niche. It's for people who really know the lore, and I don't know if they'd go that way. So I think the more likely scenario is that maybe it is Savathun that is sort of manipulating these people and trying to make sure that they don't ally with each other. And what better way to do that than to frame Keitel for trying to assassinate Zavala? So I think there could be something there, but it'll be really interesting to see how this all wraps up and if we'll eventually ally ourselves with the Cabal or if that will break apart. And I think we'll probably find out most of the answer to that question during the strike next week, or at least I'm hoping that we do. How do you guys think this is going to end? Like, do you think, now that we've had more time in the season to reflect on it, do you think that this is going to end in alliance? Do you think it's going to end in war?
Absolutely in an alliance. There'll still be some narrative excuse for why we're fighting the Cabal in other territories. Well, I mean, there already sort of is. The people that are with her, and the other ones are just still Red Legion leftovers, right? So they already have the narrative excuse about why we would still be fighting them. We're absolutely going to partner with Keitel. This is all just theater to delay us until whatever's coming next season. And then there's going to be a real threat next season, probably Siva, I hope. And
it's not going to be.
We'll go from there. Let a guy dream, Paul.
Okay, we don't have time for a real war with the Cabal in the next 2 seasons here before Savathun. So that
whether we
have our Cabal season now.
What if next season it's Keitel and we're still at war with her for another season? That would be bad. Like, no one's gonna like that.
Which is why it's not going to happen. Yeah. So next season, what we know for sure is Vault of Glass is coming back. I have a theory that I think that will be tied into the narrative for a Vex-focused season. It's been a little while since we did anything with the Vex, and Vault of Glass is coming back and maybe part of Venus at the same time. So I would say that it's probably not going to be brought back like Fallen Saber and Sepix were brought back, because I think it's actually going to like try and be part of the story this time around, because it would be a little weird to bring an entire raid back and not integrate it in at all, or come up with some excuse as to why we need to go to the Vault of the Glass. So my guess is that's kind of going to be the central crux of the storyline next season. And yes, we will be in alliance with Keitel, and this will be over for the most part. And then she'll help us when the expansion hits in some military fashion.
Do you think there will be, like, either of you, do you think there's going to be this like grand hero shot where it's like Zavala, Keitel, some random Cabal we've never seen before, Osiris, Saladin, and like that's the end of the season closer, and then they're looking into the distance and there's this massive Vex enemy or whoever the enemy is looming on the horizon?
It's just Atheon shows up, like
he's extra tall.
Yeah.
So no,
I think there will be a scene like that. I don't know if it'll be at the end of the strike, but probably towards the end of the season, where people keep talking about the broken blade animation that happens at the end of the it's like an emote at the end of the season pass where like they break the gilded blade, and people are saying that is something like Keitel will do that as like a symbol of surrender or whatever. So I could see that being kind of the thing that happens where she's like, I don't know if she's submitting, but with the way things are going, I would be surprised if we offer her like, yeah, we won, but like we're not gonna like make you bow to us. Like, let's be equals, blah blah blah. Like that kind of thing.
They could end up in some sort of draw scenario. I didn't even think about that. That's a really, really good point. But maybe she's just like, the traditions of old are, foolish. Smash. Well, we make our own traditions. We are the Cabal, whatever, So
yeah,
because like think about it, their traditions are largely tied to the reason they repeatedly failed against the Guardians. So maybe she just does. If that does happen, that would be awesome. First of all, and she's just like, no, we're writing our own future. That would be
that's
really
kind of
cool.
like that's the path she's been on. So yeah, maybe.
Yeah,
Yeah, I could see that happening, but I think a potential problem with that is that she doesn't really have a lot of support with the Cabal. So, like, could she even broker an alliance with us at this point? Like,
Who else
she's
are they
sort of,
going to go to, Travis?
I mean, they're just she's sort of losing
Travis.
all respect, right? She doesn't have a ward council because we keep killing everybody who tries to join her, and like people are losing faith in her ability to lead the Cabal.
Wait.
And yeah,
I
it's
can
just sort of
Can I poke holes in your first point?
sure.
There's literally like 4 bosses that we go kick the crap out of every week right now in the battlegrounds repeatedly, who are just vying for her attention. So to say that she doesn't have faith in the Cabal, I don't know about that. There's those guys who are we're just repeatedly killing, who are clearly trying to get in her good graces, right? So
yeah, I don't know canonically what's happening, but I'm pretty sure that
Title's
those people are dead now.
Well, I think
Title is
canonically we're not killing the battlegrounds bosses because like they keep like they're referring to like Ixil the Far-Reaching thinks this in the lore, who I've killed at least 12 times. Like,
Yeah.
so I think we're defeating them, but I don't think we're like actually murdering all of these champions. It's a little confusing, but that's where I'm landing.
Well, regardless, I would argue that I don't think she's losing grip. She is literally it. There's nobody else. Like maybe her dad could come back when the planets, like whatever they do with bringing the planets back, unfolds in the narrative. But I don't know.
He's insane, and he's buried in Glycon somewhere, some underground port.
Mm-hmm. That's another theory, though, is that like he faked his own death, and that maybe he sent the assassin to kill Zavala to frame his own daughter, to help undermine her support or make the Guardians more likely to kill her or whatever. So
maybe. All I know is Cabal are on their
one.
last leg. If they don't like Keitel, it's like, all right, we'll kill all of you. And like that's what they alluded to in the story this week, right? Saladin and Osiris are like, give us a week, we'll just slaughter all of them. And he's right.
Yeah, maybe we'll do that anyway. Maybe we'll do it with Keitel. I mean, do we need Keitel? Like she was tweeting on the Bungie Twitter that we
Keitel was tweeting.
Yeah. Keitel was tweeting
Keitel's
this
tweet
week.
storm this weekend really indicates her tactical plans for the future.
Yeah, but she was tweeting about how like we need her armies to beat the darkness, and I'm like, do we? Like why? Like why do we need you guys? Like you've proven that you can do nothing. Like your drop pods kill me more than the soldiers that are inside them. Like I don't know how you are helpful at all.
This is kind of like a video game problem though, because like how many races and how many gods have we killed from every race at this point? So like theoretically we shouldn't ever need alliances or need anyone's help. But I guess the only time we were really beaten kind of in recent memory was the Cabal, like with the plot of Destiny 1, at least for a period of time before we single-handedly reversed everything. But so it's a little hard to make the argument like, we're so badass that we can do anything when it's a video game and we have to win. Like we have to beat all the bosses. Like there's not going to be an insurmountable race that shows up that we just cannot kill because that's not how video games work. So I think we have to give Cabal a little bit of grace given that they have had some successes against us in the past. So I can kind of see where she's coming from there. And they have like volume. They have like a lot of ships and military hardware that I don't think we have at that scale. Because I mean, we're condensed into like one city essentially. Like we don't have that much, I guess, military hardware. And Rasputin's gone now, and he was our biggest weapon. So
whatever you say, Kneeler.
I'm just trying to bridge the gap here between arrogant guardians and the perfectly willing to help Empress. So
very well.
I think that we're going to join forces with them. I think next season is going to be dedicated to the Vex, and somehow we're going to convince them that the probability matrix says that we are their best bet for success against the Hive. Because if the Hive win, everything dies, right? So everything dies or everything gets converted to Taken. I don't know what Savathun's end game is, but it just feels like it's sort of a no-brainer that we start working together with any enemy faction who's even willing to. So maybe next season it's the Vex, and this season we will wrap up the season figuring out how we're going to collaborate with the Cabal. I don't think this war goes on with the Cabal. It would be silly, at least not narratively. Like it'll be there for people who are getting into the expansion later because they've said that. But narratively, the story will be pushed forward, and I think it'll go to the next season. The other alternative is the Vex align with Hive, and then we got Guardians and Cabal against Hive and Vex, and the Scorn. Who cares about the Scorn?
The Vex are kind of tools of the darkness right now. I mean, like they've been since there is no darkness race of enemies, they were kind of the envoys. Like the Vex were essentially just doing the bidding of the darkness in Shadowkeep. That's why it was a Vex raid in Garden of Salvation. The Vex are curious. Like I would love for there to be an actual Vex like NPC like that we can talk to, because it's just like it's not that kind of race, I guess, but in that very rarely, if ever, actually happens with the Vex. But I would like that just to get to know them a little more. Like they're a very interesting science fiction concept, and I think Bungie has done great work with like the lore and the world building of the Vex. But since they're just this like singular, unknowable, immortal force, it's a little hard to implement them the way you are with specific characters within like Cabal, Fallen, and Hive, I think.
Yep.
What do you think, Travis? I'm just letting you host, so.
Oh, should we move on to Grandmasters then? Grandmaster
that'll be
Nightfalls,
short.
talk about that. So yeah, Grandmaster Nightfalls came out this week, or I guess for this season they came out this week. The first one was the Sepkus Perfected, which I think is still the one. Yeah, it's still the one you can do right now. I think the question for the panel is, are you guys doing this? Are you doing the power grind to get to it? If so, why? Do you feel like it's worth it? Do you feel like the challenge is fair or worth the reward? And if not, why aren't you? I think, Paul, you probably have some opinions here, yeah?
Yeah, so I am doing the power grinds. I just hit 325, 326 on all three of my characters. So I haven't actually attempted it yet because I like literally just got there like yesterday. But the plan was to actually do GMs this time, because I have like a team together. Then we're going to actually like try to get Conqueror and stuff. But the problem is the timeline it seems very tight in a lot of ways, because you have to go pretty full steam to get to 325 by now. Like unless you have like very, very good luck with pinnacles and are doing like every pinnacle every week on all your characters, like it's a little bit of a stretch if you're not like a full-time content creator, and even if you are, some of them. And then there's the problem of the Gilded Title that people are chasing. It'll only be active for a couple weeks at the end of the season because it takes so long to actually get it. They did make the change that once you keep getting Gilded Titles, it'll track the number. However, it still will only be gilded for like a month before the season resets, and then we have to wait another 8 weeks or whatever it is for GMs to start again. So I think there are some issues there, but we'll see what they kind of do with the system as it evolves.
Yeah. Destin, are you doing the grind?
Absolutely not. I don't think it's worth it. I don't think they incentivize you well enough to even attempt Grandmasters organically. If you just do it the last week or the last 2 weeks of the season and you're playing casually, you'll probably be at the power just based on your artifact power about where you need to be able to accomplish these. Then you can just LFG it, get it done to, check that box on the, what are they called now? Weekly challenges for the Bright Dust.
Yeah.
That's actually a mechanic I've really enjoyed doing. And then I got to the one this season where it's like, do a Grandmaster. I'm like, I can't do that for 3 weeks. So I'm just not going to work on these right now. And I'll come back in 3 weeks and finish out all of them, because they've also been doing this odd thing with that mode. And I know I'm going off on a little bit of a tangent here, but they're also doing a weird thing with that mode where it's like, play Gambit. All right, you did that last week. Do it again this week. And it would be smarter to just wait until the last week and just play Gambit a significant amount to do them all at once, as opposed to doing them every week. It is really smart that it gives you a way to sign on, but I think a lot of those should have been retroactive, like leveling up Gambit. I had to reset my Gambit thing to finish that challenge. But to answer your question, I don't think you're incentivized enough to do Grandmaster Nightfalls. Besides a Gilded Title and bragging rights of saying you did it, you could do the Nightfalls at a high level. When they were doing double rewards, that was great because you're getting Ascendant Shards, and now with the armor changes, it's a really, really fun. Well, it's fun if you can do it at 1300 because you can kind of tear through it. You get some Ascendant Shards. I was getting tons of exotics. Plus, you have the weapons in there. Those I'm really, really incentivized to do. Grandmaster, they're just too. It's endgame content for like the top player base, I would say. And for everybody else, they don't care. Like somebody like Glad, he's like, I'm not going to do that grind. Like, why? He can do that like at the end of the season. And he also, I think he's feeling a little bit burnt out on Destiny. I don't want to speak for him, but I think he echoes a lot of what we're feeling. Why am I going to grind nonstop to be able to do Grandmaster Nightfall? What's the point? There's no trophy for it. There's no belt, so like, even the hardcore of hardcore. Yeah, I don't know. To me, it's
Well,
just weird.
the new
I'm not
things are-
incentivized at all.
The new things are the adept drops. That's new this season. But I don't
Adept
really think those
what?
weapons
Swarm?
are good.
Yeah.
So yeah, like they have the one new mod that's like the boss spec and major spec combined, but I don't think Shadow Price or the Swarm are very good. I mean, MGs are not in a great place, and there's better MGs anyway. The Shadow Price archetype is in a terrible spot. Maybe that'll be good at some point. And then I guess Palindrome's good, but this is an era of bottom dollar and steady hand and things like that, so it's not really competing with those. So whereas go across the street to Trials loot, and they have a sword with chain reaction, Igneous Hammer, which is 2-tap city, Outlaw Desperado Messenger, and like there's no equivalent to that. Like the only GM specific perk there is that stupid one that gives you bonuses when your fire team is dead, which should be like an intrinsic perk on the depth loot anyway. So I don't think they've really cracked the code with GM loot. I think they've really pushed forward with Trials loot, and has made that. I mean, just look at the reaction to Igneous Hammer being the 3-drop today. Like everyone's going nuts for that.
Well,
but
it's not only the 3-drop; it's also the just fail it and you get it drop.
Right. So it's more accessible and it's better, whereas GMs are way less accessible and the loot is not very good. So it's not quite it's not quite there yet.
Yeah, I'm like 130 on the season pass. So I've been playing a significant amount, and my max carry is 13, 17, and 7/8 because the only reason the character is that low is because I can't get a damn arm and I can't get a damn cape to drop on my hunter, and everything else is already like above the threshold. So if I don't get a drop in those slots, or I don't know, like it's just I'm not chasing pinnacle stuff, I guess, because
they're changing the grind to be all pinnacles, essentially all pinnacles and artifact grinding. So I feel like when they make that change, that has to come with some sort of slot protection, or this is going to be a nightmare. And I'm not looking forward to that grind, honestly, unless there's some major changes coming with it.
Yeah, they do the whole +2 thing or whatever, but right now it's just like, you got to go run through.
Maybe it was way worse at +1, but
yeah, you got to go run through.
Undoable.
Yeah, you got to go run through Deep Stone Crypt for the 20th time. And I'm like, I guess, like, if I really want, do I really want to run the raid again to go do Grandmaster Nightfalls? The answer is no, because I've already beaten the raid. I've beaten that challenge. I know I can go do it. So it's just a time investment to get drops so that I can do this other piece of content that I'm not really that excited to do. And that's my problem with Grandmasters, right? I hope there's a lot of people out there who are like watching this show and they're like, man, I love Grandmasters. I love that they have this content. And sure, I would too, if there was more incentivization to do it. I don't feel like it's there. How do you feel, Travis?
Yeah. For me, it's not even really incentivization. It's like the gating of the power thing, man. Like I play Destiny every day and I'm not anywhere close to 1325. I think I'm like 1315 or 1316. It just feels like I'm really far away because the only way I can get higher is if I do the pinnacle activities every single week and get lucky with the drops, which frankly I already do a lot of those. And then like I do the raid every week, for example, because I still don't have Eyes of Tomorrow. And then the other way is just by doing the artifact leveling, which is just such a massive grind. And I'm a PvP main. The rewards are better in PvP anyway when Trials is actually active. The PvE activity, at least for me, I haven't done Grandmaster since the season it came out, but it was just a not fun situation of you just getting destroyed by the weakest of enemies would be able to hit you and or kill you in 2 hits, and it was sort of over. That didn't feel good to me. So I think the rewards aren't there, but also just like the grind, man. Like if 1325 is an artificial cap, even if you have 1355, why set it that high? Why not make it like 1300 and then just make it so that all your power beyond 1300 doesn't matter? I don't understand what the purpose of the grind is really if the experience is going to be identical no matter how high you grind your character.
Yeah,
so,
like
the purpose of the grind is to give the grind purpose. It's like this loop.
where
right? Day one they could just be like, okay, it's contest mode, like it's 25 above whatever you are, and like it scales. And then people wouldn't need to grind at all. And like maybe that's where we're moving towards, because they're coming up with reasons to do the grind that are just not really good ones. It's like, do GMs slightly more efficiently run whatever the seasonal activity is, and then like maybe have a slight edge in Trials, but that won't make up for a skill gap anyway. So it's power is in a weird place right now.
You both bring up really, really good points. So Travis, to your point, how do you get artifact power right now? You turn in bounties. It's like a really, really boring gameplay loop to get that artificial power. So why didn't they just turn it on where artifact power, the artifact in general is a problem. The fact that artifact power is tied to so many things and the only way to power that up is through XP, basically. I find that tedious and frustrating. At least with the gear stuff, I know the tasks that I can do to get those pinnacle drops. So I guess that's more of a positive. It's still also sort of problematic. I don't know. It's definitely like a multifaceted problem where, okay, so I got to do a bunch of XP stuff to get my power up and maybe the pinnacles a little bit just to get me to that 1325. Just disable artifact power. I'll go in there right now. I'm like 1302, set it to 1310, and at least I have a chance. Sure, make it match game, make it attrition, make it really, really hard. But
Please
now
don't make it attrition.
Well, yeah, okay, maybe not that one, but like, I actually think Nightfalls are in a really, really good place. I think Grandmaster Nightfalls just sort of fall into this weird place where you're like, all right, like, I guess. Even the people that are doing it, like, was it super rewarding when you did it? Because it's just a strike that's with more modifiers and harder things. I don't know. Maybe people really love it, and I'm just way off tone here and feeling.
I'd say it's mixed at best, but
yeah, for sure.
At least it doesn't get disabled every weekend like Trials.
There we go. Segue. Perfect segue. Yeah. So that's the next topic is that we talked about how Trials was back. Oh, no, we didn't actually. We didn't have a show last week. It was Paul and I on Twitter were talking about whether or not Trials is going to come back. And then it did come back for half of a day or I guess one full day. And then they turned it off because it turns out that the rejoin win trading gate that we talked about on the last episode was in fact not solved. And people were still finding a way to do it. So they had to deactivate it again. It is live right now, at least when we started recording, it was live. But I guess the question is, do you guys think it's going to stick around? Do you think they actually solved whatever the issue was and we get Trials back for real, or is it doomed to get canceled yet again?
I literally went to Bungie help. It's still on as of this recording.
Okay,
so.
I mean, I will be so mad if it gets canceled before I get the Igneous Hammer at 3 wins. It'll take me like an hour to lose as many games as I need to
Come on, Paul.
Get it.
You win 1 or 2.
It depends. It really depends. Funny. I did the grind for the arms on all 3 characters that week, and that was the most discouraged I think I've ever been playing this game. It was so brutal. I mean, they disabled rejoin, which is the main culprit behind why win trading worked in the first place. Like, I am sure there are other ways to win trade that people are doing. Like, win trading has always been around. It's just that was so widespread that like it became a thing. And like now what people are doing, the cheese is jumping off just to get the bounty because people don't want to actually play Trials, which is its own problem, but that's not something that Trials is going to get canceled over. So as long as there's no like total glitch outside the map and an auto win thing, hopefully it stays up. Knock on wood. But I really need to get that hammer. I'm like nervous like every hour that goes by that I haven't gotten at least one yet to add it to my loot pool because I'm worried something will come up and cancel it. But I would be pretty furious at that point.
Yeah,
I got one with Outlaw and Celerity, and it didn't even take an hour. Yeah, it's like
had me in the first half.
And, yeah, almost.
Celerity should not exist. All those last Fireteam member perks should not exist. But
yeah, I've got a rapid hit and snapshot sights from last week, so I got a really good roll. But yeah, I'm going to be the pessimist here and say that somehow it gets canceled. I just don't have any faith in Trials' ability to like actually go an entire weekend without something disastrous happening. And this is coming from somebody who loves Trials, loves PvP, but like I just don't have any faith. So I'm going to try to get on tonight, late at night, and just get to the lighthouse before it gets shut off at 3:30 a.m. or whenever it is that something catastrophic happens. But yeah, if they're able to solve it just by disabling rejoin and it's that easy, I'm happy. I don't think it's a great player experience to have people jumping off of the cliff either, but
I don't care.
If they're on the other team and making you win, that's fine with me.
I mean, for some of us actually want to play Trials. I know that's like really hard, but like some of us
that happens like what once on a flawless card if you're lucky. You know, you get a suicide squad.
on PC maybe, because you get a lot of people who are either cheating or doing something where they jump off the cliff or whatever. But I would like Trials to actually be something that people look forward to playing.
Wait a minute. Are you saying that you're getting flawless on console because so many people are suiciding that you're just getting a free pass?
I'm saying that in the win trading environment, there were people who were getting a much easier experience because if they didn't see you with the Hake emblem, they would just leave the match. And then you can go to the lighthouse, even though you're not doing the win trading thing, just because people are kind of forcing you that way. And it's sort of that way. A couple of weeks ago, it was that way with the people jumping off the cliff. It was the first 3 matches. You might just run up against people jumping off the cliff. So you just had to like sit there and wait for 3 teams to kill themselves.
Pretend like you're going to fight.
Yeah. And then you get to go to the 4th match and you're like, all right, well, I haven't warmed up at all. I'm on my 4th win on the ticket. I've killed 0 people because the first 3 teams were just jumping off the cliff. And that's not a particularly fun experience. So that said, I don't think they should be canceling Trials, man. Like, right now, the raids have 12-man people running around. Sorry, that got patched this Tuesday.
And
but
strikes,
they let
that was a blast. That was just
yeah, that was really cool. But the thing is, like, that was happening in the PvE world. It was happening for their Nightfalls. It was happening for raids, and they just sort of laughed it off and were like, "Yeah, have fun in there, guys." And then Trials, there was this one issue. I mean, granted, it was a pretty big issue, but they shut Trials down, and they shut Trials down over the smallest things. And I get it. It's supposed to be, a spotless kind of flawless arena, but it's never been that. And I feel like they should just let it ride, man. Like, who cares if it's a little bit broken, but don't cancel it over every small thing, man. It's killing me.
I agree with you a little bit. I think if there's a glitch where you can go outside the map or something, they have to shut it down because that'll get too heavily exploited. But win trading, I don't think that's a reason. I don't think they should have shut it down last week. It was just about the Haka emblem win trading, right?
Yeah.
To me, I
don't think they should do it even if there's a glitch where people are jumping off the map because, like...
No. I don't think jumping off the map is a problem. I don't think that win trading was a problem worth shutting it down over. It is something they should address, but I mean, it's not affecting a large portion of the player base, I would imagine. So those 2 things, I don't think it was worth canceling Trials for, but if there's a place where you can go and not die, then they should probably shut it down. Or if they're using, one thing I encountered actually that I think is sort of what they're noticing is one person can leave on the opposing team and then rejoin, and then there's no way they can lose. They just force you to leave, right? And that's a bug that I actually reported over to Bungie that I encountered, and stuff like that is worth canceling for. But win trading and jumping off the edge of the cliff, you should not be canceling Trials for it, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm with you there. The other thing is the strike's coming out next week. We kind of got a little bit of setup for it in the story this week. Do you guys have any theories about what we're going to be doing in the strike, or any hopes? Or Paul, if you have, like, what's something you hope happens in the strike?
I hope it's not, like, I hope it's interesting, but I hope it's not too long. I'm not loving all the introductions of strikes like the Corrupted or Scarlet Keep that are just so endlessly long. Especially, if you just get them in the strike playlist. Like, I cannot even do the Corrupted anymore. It takes like 3 times as long as any other strike. We kind of already know who the final boss is. It was in the trailer. It's some big Centurion. It's not Keitel. And I'm more curious about, I guess, the story components of it rather than the actual mechanics of what goes on inside an Imperial land tank. I would imagine that we're going to be at a place where it's a strike, so they're not going to have anything more complicated than, like, throwing a charged up ball, and even that's too complicated for people in the Corrupted. So maybe not even to that degree. I'm hoping just that this will be one of those strikes where it has alternate dialogue. So if you run it a bunch of times, you'll get to hear a bunch of different story things. And then I hope it's just not terrible, and it'll be something to be an actual, like, fun Nightfall as opposed to a nightmare. So I hope they keep up with the enemy density thing that we've seen from Zepix, less so with Fallen Saber, but I think that's a good new philosophy that they've had with Battlegrounds and Zepix, which is throwing a metric ton of enemies at you. That I'm all for that, and I think that could be cool, like in more strikes. So that's kind of what I'm hoping for.
Destin.
Well, thanks for the spoiler warning, Paul. Not all of us have watched all the trailers. Now I know it's the Cabal. Like that's going to be the final boss. Thanks a lot.
I can't win with spoilers.
Yeah, I don't know. My hope would be that somehow it integrates the Vanguard characters into the mission. I'll never forget like the beginning of D2 where Zavala is there with his bubble and you actually are, he's like, I have to hold this and protect these civilians, stop the Cabal from doing whatever. And then Ikora shows up and throws a Nova Bomb. I would absolutely love it if there were moments like that within this strike. More realistically, I think what they would have had time to develop are each of those characters calling into you and giving you tips. I think it'll be locked commentary. I don't think it'll be varied commentary, though. I don't think that's easy enough to do. And I think they've spent most of that time towards the Battlegrounds dialogue to do that. And this is a strike. So strikes are typically like locked narratives. You don't get too much variation. I know Arms Dealer has a little bit of variation once in a while. And there's a few where Zavala has alternating dialogue, but it would be very minor, if anything. That's my hope for it. We'll see what actually happens.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I'm hoping for a bunch of story. Yeah, like you said, Paul, I kind of had that spoiled for me too in the trailer that the boss is some Centurion. I'm hoping
let's just keep spoiling it.
That was okay. It was revealed in the story this week that it's not Kyle, and then there's only one boss in the trailer we haven't fought yet. Ergo.
I'm hoping that it's like a trick and that actually Kyle's going to show up, or that we'll get to see her in the. Yeah, I would love it if we got to at least see her in the world. Like maybe we kill her Centurion and then she sort of like shows up like at the end of the Corrupted Strike when we get a little bit of dialogue from whatever her name is. That one that shows up. I would love it if there was something there. I'm just hoping that this is like soaked in story and it's not. It doesn't just feel like a slightly more intricate battleground where we fight, yet another big beefy Cabal guy that throws rockets at you. If it's that, I'll be pretty disappointed. So
it probably will be that.
If he's got that bubble shield for like the fourth time, I would not be very amused with that. But
yeah,
I love your idea.
I think you're probably right.
I love your idea. Like the boss has 4 health bars. He gets to the last health bar. He just goes invincible in some manner, but then Keitel shows up and just busts his chops, like knocks him down and kills him, basically finishes him off, then does the gilded blade break that Paul teased about earlier. And then she's like, the ways of old are no more.
Yeah.
I'm done with this. We're teaming up with the Guardians. Follow me or die.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't
to me,
and that would be awesome.
I would love that. To me, it doesn't even have to be that specifically. I just want there to be something big that happens during the strike that everyone is talking about and its story implications, right? Like maybe we find out that Savathun was behind the assassination attempt, or maybe, Callus shows up with his new ship and reveals that he has plans of his own. I just want something to happen like at the end of the strike that makes it just not another glorified Battlegrounds. Like I don't really care what direction they go with it. I just want something cool to happen. And yeah, I do think Keitel showing up and kind of making some sort of definitive decision.
I could see it splitting. Like I could see it being a normal strike and then you kill the guy and then a chest spawns and whatever. But then there's a cut scene the first time you do it, because you're going to have to run it as a part of the Battleground story mission. And I'm sure there'll be one instance of it and then it'll get added to the rotation. But I can see them tacking on a cut scene at the end, like showing whatever happens at the end of that, but not something that would run every time you ran that strike.
Well, no, that's what they did with Crow, and you would get that. Oh, you didn't get the cutscene every time, but you did at least for your first 3 completions on your alts. So, Paul, that's probably what will happen. You'll finish it, and then there will be a cutscene in the same vein as the Crow event.
Oh, you mean the final hunt? Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah, and I don't think they'll add it to rotation because right now it is exclusive to season pass
it'll be
holders.
Next week, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so they'll add it whenever. But yeah, that'll be. I think that's probably it, and hopefully I'm just hoping some more of that happens in the actual strike rather than a cutscene. But I totally agree; it'll probably just be, a more intricate battleground, and then we'll get a cutscene, and that would be probably bare minimum. If it's anything less than that, I'll be really upset. But
I had a quick question to add to what you're asking, Travis. With all the stuff that happened with Presage, I don't know if you guys paid attention to all that lore, but I loved playing through Presage. I went through it multiple times. I did it solo flawless on the easier difficulty. I did all the scannables, and there's such interesting lore and things that happen in there. Do you think that's going to integrate anyway into this final encounter or no?
No, not. I don't think
Yeah.
it's going to integrate into the strike. I think it'll integrate into stuff before the end of the season because we have. I don't know how many completions we need. At least like 9 or 10 completions to get the whole lore book and open all the little rooms. I'm guessing this is not data mine or anything, but like I'm guessing the final data pad in the final room might open up the area to Crown of Sorrow, which we've been hearing about. Prestige has been getting a little weird though because it had 3 weeks of different dialogue, but now it's repeating, and I'm not getting new dialogue anymore.
No,
and I kind of lost track of the scannables, which were giving out new dialogue, but
it's just the treasure chest now. So all
Right.
the scannables
So, yeah.
are done. Now it's just the data pads with treasure chests, and there's no dialogue tied to those, but that's where the lore books are tied. So
yeah,
maybe we get a thing for the last one, but that would be a big bummer because you have to do them every week, and if you don't,
that's what I'm wondering. Yeah.
like I think I'm like 2 weeks behind, so I'm always like, what week am I actually on? And if I don't remember if I missed last week now, so am I on chest 4 or am I on chest 6? Who knows?
Keep in mind it's not going away. So like it's 9 or 10 weeks or whatever, but you have until the Witch Queen to do it. But if there is some major story thing tied to this, if Callus pops out of his little hidey hole or whatever, and I assume this is leading to something like somewhat important, like, or else I don't know why we would be on this path. And Keitel seems pretty intent on finding Callus, so I would assume that somehow this gets resolved by the end of the season, kind of separately from the whole Battlegrounds alliance thing, because it's kind of split off from that. But I'm not, given the current structure of it, where now it's just finding pages of the lore book. I'm wondering a little bit like how exactly it ends.
Yeah, like here's how much I loved it. I loved it so much. I went through and I captured all the cutscenes HUDless and I put together all the narrative in one video on my YouTube, just because like I like it
Dedication.
so much. Like nobody really watched it, but I like to have that. I'm like, it's like collecting comics for me. So I've been doing that for a long time, and I have everything now on the YouTube. And Presage was like one of the coolest things that I've done probably since the Season of a Drifter stuff, where every week Drifter had something going on. And that's all in addition to what's been going on during Season of the Chosen. Season of the Chosen has been quite an excellent season in terms of the amount of stuff that we got included with it. Just I'm very happy with
that's a question I want to ask that I was going to write an article about. Do you think this is the best season, like standalone season?
I think it might be
up against Opulence.
I think it might.
I think it could be ever. Honestly.
Yeah, ever.
I think it is.
I know we're halfway through, and it's probably going to get more stagnant after the strike next week. But the cadence of content, the lore stuff that's being revealed, the cutscenes, the sort of cat and mouse game that we've been getting throughout the story events, the lore stuff in the books, like story wise and PvE gameplay wise, it has been quite excellent. PvP, we don't talk about PvP.
What was a good PvP season?
There haven't been any, unfortunately. True. That is the actual real answer.
Yeah.
We've only got a few minutes left, so I figure we'll wrap up with our Bungie Please segment. For those of you who haven't listened in a while, Bungie Please is our opportunity at the end of the show for all of us to hit Bungie with our gripes, nags, and whines about the stuff that we would like them to implement into our beloved game. So, Destin, I think you've got one for this. Why don't you tell us your Bungie Please this week?
Yeah, I was tempted to steal one from Twitter, but hey, Bungie, please, can you please figure out what you're doing with mods? You took away Bungie, you took away the bounties from Banshee. If I don't know how to get mods regularly, what is a new player who actually needs them? What are they going to do? So just anything with the mods. Maybe put Banshee's bounties back. I don't know. Were they doing any harm? Do people have too many mods? Why does that currency exist?
Are you talking about upgrade modules or mods?
Mods.
Okay.
Because you use mods to buy like when what was the perk that like is never sold?
The Warmind Cell.
When Warmind Cells is there, you need mods to buy that. So if you're a new
you mean
player,
mod components? Okay. Yeah, I have like 50,000 mod components. Do you not have mod components?
We do. Imagine you're a new player and you've read Paul Tassie's article over on Forbes. You're
how
man,
do you get mod components now?
Exactly.
That's a good question.
Exactly.
I never thought about that. I have so many. I just
we have so many. But if you're reading that article about how to do that Warmind Cell build, and you're like, oh, I got one of those. How the heck do I get those even? So just
is it even possible?
Why did they take away the bounty? Just get rid of. Look, if you're going to take away the easy way to do it, that was like a big feature from that season when they added that bounty. If you're going to take that away, maybe just get rid of the currency.
Yep. That's a great Bungie please. Paul, what do you got?
Do you want to tell them the one you wrote for me, Travis? Because I didn't do it.
My guess this week was that Paul was going to say that we need to give our Guardians better haircuts or something. So.
I wasn't, but now that you mention it, remember when Bungie talked about going back to the character creator and doing a revamp of that potentially? They talked about that a long time ago, but in all the updates we've gotten, we have never heard anything about that. There was some change they made to the face system that made some of the faces look a little different and stuff, but we're like 7+ years in now, and we are still using the exact Destiny 1 character creator that we can never re-edit unless we delete our characters. So with the arrival of Transmog and turning shaders from consumables to permanent unlocks, I have to believe that the final step in the whole cosmetic train has to be a return to getting the face editor system back online. We have other games like Outriders that are launching where you can change everything about yourself, your entire face.
So many options in Outriders.
yeah, potentially. And I honestly think they could make a couple bucks with a couple microtransactions worth of beards and, whatever, head accessories, eye patches, whatever. Like, as long as there's enough free options too. Like, it just seems like a missed opportunity, and we've heard nothing about it ever since they first mentioned that they were considering doing something with it like a long time ago.
Travis told me every emote they had makes them like $50 million. So
yeah, that checks out.
That was data
yeah, we need a transmog for our faces, I think is what you mean. Yeah, so that's great. My Bungie please this week. Bungie, please. Why? Please tell me why I have a Sparrow. I don't think there's any good opportunities for me to use it, except for in situations where, I'm trying to get from one place to another pointlessly because I can either transmat there, or I just need to know why I have a Sparrow, really. And this brings me to my larger point, which is bring back Sparrow Racing League. I think it's time. You guys just doubled your studio size. You've got all this money. There's got to be some way you can give Sparrow Racing League to some third-party studio and have them build this out. There's something here.
You told me these were supposed to be small things, not like, hey, add this huge new feature and buy a studio to make it.
Just bring High Moon back.
My main Bungie please,
Sparrow Racing.
My real Bungie please is like, I don't understand the point of Sparrows. They take away the ability to get on my Sparrow in all the situations I would want to, and then they make me ride it pointlessly in all these situations where they could have just dropped me closer to whatever the point is. So I just really don't understand the point of Sparrows in the game right now. I think Sparrow Racing League would give me an answer, but that's kind of a pet project for me. But anyway, I need to know why we have Sparrows. I'm so confused by them in the game at this point.
Everyone has the transmat preloader, right? Like the faster transmat speed. If you don't have that on your Sparrow, what are you doing?
No, they made it permanent, so all Sparrows have that now.
Really?
That's right. Yeah,
that was like the big Sparrow change they made, and that's like literally the last time I've even thought about Sparrows. So
I'm looking. I still got some that don't have it, so it's just there by default.
It's odd. No, if it doesn't have it, it's intrinsic now, so it's not listed as a perk anymore.
Interesting.
It's just
I remember them
how Sparrows work.
I remember them talking about that. That was like dumb. And like, why even have different things on your Sparrows? We're just using them to drive over there.
None of the things matter except maybe the one where enemies don't shoot you as much on whatever that one Sparrow is.
If that even works,
Sparrows are dumb.
Yeah, they're dumb.
In conclusion, Sparrows are dumb.
That's our show.
All right. Well, do the honors, Travis. You hosted this whole one.
All right. Well, that's our show, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Paul, where can we find you?
At Poltassi on Twitter, onlyfans.com/
Yes, we finally got the OnlyFans call out.
That's a secret link. And then just Poltassi on YouTube and Google me for my articles.
Destin?
Yeah, you can find me on IGN.com. Don't forget, all those performance reviews that I was doing, those are going up on youtube.com/IGN Games now. So be sure you're checking out IGN Games. A lot of our content has been moved over there. And yeah, I guess if you want to see me just ramble, I do stuff on YouTube, youtube.com/The Destin Channel. Paul and I are arguing a bunch on there now. So that's really fun. That's coming out on Sunday. But mostly watch IGN Games because we're trying to like give performance reviews and our content a little bit more breathing room. So check it out, see what we're doing over there, and let us know what you think.
That's awesome. And you can find me, as always, at Ty Guy Travis on Twitter. You can read my articles and reviews at IGN.com. And you can see me on Fireteam Chat every other week right here. That's it, everybody. Thanks for watching. Until next time, Guardians out.
Out.